Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udzu billahi min syururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Allahumma shalli wa sallim ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Good morning everyone. In this lovely occasion, please allow me, Herdy Almadiptha Rahman, to present my proposal entitled Behavioral Intentions to Comply with Islamic Financial Planning of Indonesian Healthcare Personnel During a Pandemic, an application of modified theory of planned behavior. Here is the presentation outline. Introduction, consisting research background, question, objective, and limitation. Then theoretical framework, consisting conceptual description, previous research, and research framework, hypothesis, development also. And we have research methodology as well. Let's start with introduction, research background. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic was first emerged in December 2019 by a case of unidentified pneumonia at that time, emerging in Wuhan, Hubei province, People's Republic of China, and that becoming ground zero of COVID-19. It spread around the world until March 11, 2020, WHO, or the World Health Organization, considered COVID-19 pandemic as a global pandemic. Then, according to Jalante, it generated a lot of challenges of several sectors, with first two cases reported in Indonesia on March 2, 2020. Due to its prevention effort that necessitated to cut human activities by implementation of lockdown or physical distancing, it also impacted economic activities around the world, according to Abdul Abiyad and Khurshid. Micro level such as personal and household finance was also affected, according to Bakar, Jantan, Martin, and Parker. Some concerns such financial stress, financial anxiety, and financial constraint emerge on people around the world, according to Chabra, Francini, participants, and the rest. As we all know, the healthcare personnel in this pandemic dealing as a forefront or a crucial profession to face the pandemic. There are some research concerning about healthcare personnel, such Cotrin, Barzilai, and Serrano Ripoll, reported that healthcare personnel experienced several problems such as financial anxiety or financial stress. Regarding financial anxiety, Jantan et al. Stated that psychological impact on behavioral economics is financial anxiety, which requires adjustment in personal financial planning and managing personal finance. In the context of financial planning, Grable et al. In 2011 stated that financial planning are observable with cognitive and behavioral approach, while behavioral aspects in this study were tested using a modified framework of the theory of planned behavior that first introduced by Isaac Adzen in the year of 1995. Let's move on to the research question. Number one is, does attitude affect behavioral intention to comply with Islamic financial planning among healthcare personnel in Indonesia during a pandemic? Then, does knowledge about Islamic financial planning affect behavioral intention to comply with Islamic financial planning among healthcare personnel in Indonesia during a pandemic? Then the third is, does financial self-efficacy affect behavioral intention to comply with Islamic financial planning among healthcare personnel in Indonesia during a pandemic? Then let's move on to the research objective. Number one is to analyze the effect of attitude to behavioral intention to comply with Islamic financial planning among healthcare personnel in Indonesia during a pandemic. Then to analyze the effect of knowledge about Islamic financial planning, of course, to behavioral intention to comply with Islamic financial planning among healthcare personnel in Indonesia during a pandemic. Then 3 is to analyze the effect of financial self-efficacy to behavioral intention to comply with Islamic financial planning among healthcare personnel in Indonesia during a pandemic. Let's move on to the research limitation. This research is limited to attitude, knowledge about Islamic financial planning, and financial self-efficacy variables to determine behavioral intention to comply with Islamic financial planning, while other possible variables in the context of behavioral determinant are not observed. The object of this study is concerned on specific professional background, which in this context are Indonesian healthcare personnel. Other possible objects of study are not observed. Let's move on to theoretical framework. But first, let me explain in a glance about conceptual description of the theory of planned behavior. The theory of planned behavior was first introduced by Isaac Adzen in the year of 1985. The theory of planned behavior explained that an individual's performance in the context of undergoing a behavior is determined by the intention of the individual concerned. While intention is assumed to be the determinant of the motivational factors that influence behavior. In this context, research has discovered that intentions are effective predictors of behavior, according to Armitage and Connor, 2001. The theory states that individual intentions are formed from a combination of attitude toward behavior, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control. However, in principle, the theory of planned behavior is open to adding additional predictors as long as the additional variable can be defined in detail and included in behavioral specific variables, according to Adzen 2020. Next is Islamic financial planning. Islamic financial planning defined as a process of determining financial goals and priorities and the resources to meet them optimally within the parameters of the Sharia toward attaining falah, according to Lasasna 2010 and Ahmad and Soleh 2016. In a glance, a hierarchical form of financial planning consists of money management, emergency planning, investing for goals, and transference planning, according to Ahmad and Soleh 2016. Let's move on to the theoretical framework. This research is observed three different variables that are attitude, knowledge, and financial self-efficacy. Attitude here refers to the evaluative impact of favorable or unfavorable of people in applying specific conduct of behavior. This is original definition by Isaac Azar in 1991. Then attitudes cultivate irreasonably from the beliefs people hold about the object of the attitude, according to Fishbein and Adzen in the year of 1975. While the more positive person's attitude, the stronger the tendency for that behavior. This is from Taylor and Todd in 1995. Again, in the context of finance, financial attitude is a state of mind, opinions, and judgment about finance, according to Pankow 2003. The next is financial attitudes influence behavioral intentions on financial field, according to Sim 2015 and Xiao 2011. Financial attitudes in this research narrow into attitudes towards financial planning, which in accordance with research from Othman 2017. Next is knowledge. Knowledge is considered as an important factor that could change attitude and perception, according to Valen 1999. There are studies that decide knowledge as one dimension of perceived behavioral control or specific variable that affect the intention, such Dance and Haberman in 2007, Aberrat in 2020, Rothwell in 2016, and Xiao et al. In 2011. This research will observe knowledge about Islamic financial planning that based on the Islamic financial planning conceptual framework by Abdullah and Muhammad 2013 and Ahmad Saleh 2016, Amanda et al. 2018, and Lasasna 2010. Next is financial self-efficacy, but first, allow me to explain self-efficacy as well. Self-efficacy is defined as an individual's beliefs in the individual's ability to perform a certain behavior. This is definition by Bandura, 1994. Self-efficacy represents one of the dimension of behavioral control tested in theory of planned behavior, which was later confirmed by Adzen in the year of 2002, that perceived behavioral control is a dimension developed from self-efficacy. Again, in the context of finance, financial self-efficacy is closely related to social cognitive theory, which states the perception of self-efficacy affects of every aspect of individual's life, in this context finance, consisting of their goals, choices, and determination of achieved tasks, positive or negative thinking patterns, and measures of their persistence in the context of dealing with problems, according to Noor et al. 2020. In conceptual and measurement, financial self-efficacy differs from financial knowledge, according to Rothwell et al. 2016. Let's move on to the previous research. The first one is Haji Othman et al. 2017. From the research entitled The Influence of Attitude, Knowledge, and Self-Efficacy under the Intention to Compare Islamic Financial Planning, with attitude, knowledge, and self-efficacy as the variables, and PLSM as data analysis method. He actually introduced a conceptual framework in analyzing intention to compare Islamic financial planning. Deng Awang et al. 2016. From the research entitled Acceptance and Application of Islamic Financial Planning among Small and Medium Enterprises, Halal Operator in Peninsular of Malaysia. They use attitude and knowledge in Islamic finance as a variable and reliability analysis as a data analysis method, and they found that the application of Islamic finance is significantly correlated with Islamic financial planning. Then Setiawati et al. In 2018, with the research entitled Islamic Financial Literacy and Personal Financial Planning, a socio-demographic study. They use Islamic financial literacy and personal financial planning as a variable, and ordinarily square as data analysis method. They found that people with good EFL or Islamic financial literacy levels would be better at managing personal finances and prefer investing in Islamic assets. Next is in the context of financial planning in general, not specific to Islamic financial planning. Anthony and Machahaba Hove in 2016, from the research entitled Factors Influencing Black Consumers' Financial Planning Intention, an exploratory study. They use variables of attitude, family norms, and financial self-efficacy with multiple regressionist data analysis method, and they found that attitude and family norms has a negative relationship to intentions, while financial self-efficacy has a positive relationship to intention. Next is Putri, 2016, with the research entitled Financial Planning for Islamic Economic Students in Yogyakarta, with knowledge and control variables as a variables, and regressionist data analysis method. She found that knowledge has a significant effect on financial planning, while the control variables has not. The next is Sari, 2017, with the research entitled Behavioral Intention to Use Islamic Personal Financial Planner in Jakarta. She used religion obligation, affordability, attitude, and knowledge awareness as a variable, and CBSAM as data analysis method. She found that religion obligation and knowledge awareness positively influence attitude, affordability negatively influence attitude, while affordability, attitude, and knowledge awareness positively influence intention to use Islamic personal financial planner. Here is the framework that I propose. The first one is attitude toward Islamic financial planning. As X1, of course, the knowledge about Islamic financial planning and financial self-efficacy is they are tested to how is affected, how is influenced to intention by we can see the hypothesis development. H1 is attitude toward Islamic financial planning affect intention to compare Islamic financial planning, while H2 is knowledge about Islamic financial planning affect intention to compare Islamic financial planning, and H3 financial self-efficacy affect intention to comply with Islamic financial planning. Let's move on to research methodology. This research considered as quantitative research with the gaining of primary data. How is data collected? Data collected by the online questionnaire, data collection technique, and using in the context of sampling, simple random sampling technique, and data analysis method using partially square structural equation modeling or PLS-SAM. Alhamdulillah, thank you very much for your nice attention. Maybe that's all from me. Please accept my deepest apology for any mistake that I made and any technical issue in this video actually. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.